Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Andy here and Imogen. We went from depressed and suicidal to living a life of abundance and joy. If we can do it, you sure as hell can too. Did you? Were you ever suicidal or depressed? Okay, well,
I was
I did it.
depressed. I
I
wasn't
did it.
suicidal.
Now, you might be saying, where is Andy? Hello. So, let's have a little talk today. We've been in a relationship for 5 point,
Something.
let's calculate it, 5.8 years, basically 6 years. I just say 6 years because it's easier. And in that time, we've had a few hard times. We've had a little bit of relationship tension. Back in the early days, we would argue a lot more. We haven't argued in, I don't know, a year or so, like touch wood. But we used to argue a lot more. And there were some hard times that we went through. So we thought we'd give some advice of, or at least talk through how we have handled, I guess, tension and difficult times and what we've done and some little cheat codes that have worked with us and how we've managed to be as loving as we possibly can with each other. And we're so much better at it now. But back in the early days, we were not that great at being loving when we were really stressed or the outside world was affecting us or we were letting it affect us when we were grumpy or any of that sort of stuff. So let's kick it off, lady.
Yeah. And I guess the thing that I would add is, as it is very easy to do, like the reason that we did have difficulties or we would get into disagreement sometimes was because it's pretty common that when your emotions get to you, that you want to let it out and your partner's the one that's there all the time. And because that's the case, it can be very easy to blame them for things or get annoyed by things, or they get the brunt of the the worst parts of yourself, I guess. Like the irritation, the lack of patience, because they're there all the time. So it's normal.
Hmm.
And I think if anything, like it's not something to beat yourself up over or ask like, why am I doing this? This is so fucked up. It's give yourself a little bit of grace because being in a relationship, especially a long term one, there's going to be periods that test you.
Yeah, I think that's something that helped both of us is like from the early days, we both, like right from the start, I said, look, I haven't always been great in relationships. My first two relationships, I cheated on both of them. The second one, she was violent at times. There was a lot of things that I wasn't that great at, and I was still learning in relationships. And I made that very clear to you. And I said, I'm not looking for a relationship. I just want something casual at the start. And that's kind of how we started. You were the same thing. You were like, I don't know what I'm doing in relationships. I've never really been in one. My parents were divorced. And I think from that, we both had very low expectations that we put on each other. I don't think we put a lot of pressure on each other that we would be some amazing legends at relationships. And I think because of that, that allowed us the space many, many, many times to give each other and ourselves permission to suck. We weren't perfect with that, but there was very much a sense of like, yeah, of course you're shit at relationships. Of course I'm shit at relationships. And I think with that, then there wasn't expectations that this would be some perfect, romantic, amazing dream relationship. And I think that meant that we could then get in there and say, look, it's okay that you yelled at me. It's okay that you weren't perfect. It's okay that you were grumpy. How do we fix this? How do we get to that point where we no longer argue? How do we get to that point where we know how to handle all of this stuff? I think we were blessed in a weird way to have no expectations. And I think those expectations are a big part of why people struggle in hard times, like
Mm.
in a relationship.
And I think to be clear, there weren't zero expectations
No, we definitely had expectations,
at
but
points in time. And it's definitely easier to say all this stuff now,
mm,
looking back on it when I think we're in a much better place.
mm,
Whereas when we're in the middle of it and it doesn't feel like we're necessarily resolving the disagreements
mm,
and they feel a bit more regular, there was that sense of like, I don't know how to fix this. Like there wasn't necessarily a peace around that because like this feels like this is just
100%,
going
yeah.
to keep happening.
Mm,
I don't know how to stop this happening.
mm,
And obviously, we're problem solving and trying to figure it out the entire time. But
mm,
again, I think we're in a privileged position where we can actually look back on this
mm.
and learn from it and hopefully share some of the things that we've learned.
Yeah, and I guess on that note, something like that we can share is like if any of you are in a relationship and you do argue or you do struggle to be stoic and calm and peaceful and loving, when your emotions are high, that's okay. And I think a mindset that really helped us in the first couple of years when we were more emotional and we were arguing more is, first of all, like I said, give yourself permission to suck. And even if you suck at giving yourself permission to suck, that's okay. Like, that's fine. And the second thing is probably every problem has a solution. That's something that I said to you a bunch of times, especially when we were going through relationship tension. and we almost couldn't see a way out. And we were like, how are we going to resolve this disagreement or this thing that could turn out to be a fundamental incompatibility in the relationship? Because there were quite a few things like that where it's like, I don't know if we can like solve this. I don't know if this is just an incompatibility between the two of us. And I would say this to you all the time. Look, every problem has a solution. We've proven that to each other with everything that we've achieved in our own individual lives. And even if the solution is eventually we part ways and we're amicable and we're loving in that, you go off and build your beautiful life with, someone else or by yourself or whatever, I'll do the same. We were able to then sort of go, okay, so like this isn't a do or die argument. I think a lot of people, the emotions can run very high, and they did for me in my first two relationships because it felt like do or die, because I told myself, or I believed the lie in my first couple of relationships, that I need this person, otherwise I won't be okay. Or I need love, I won't be okay.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of the pain in disagreements or arguments can come from, because there's this sense of I need to stay with this person, but I'm not happy right now. And I think given this is my first relationship and was dealing with all of the feelings of love and attachment for the first time, I definitely had that mentality in the first
You
couple of
did.
years, and that was very overwhelming. And then we moved interstate away from all of my family, and you were the only person that I knew when we moved, and I'd moved very much for you. And that kind of added to that as
Yeah.
well. It's like I've just uphold my life, and if things aren't going to work out, like that's going to have been for nothing. And so it's definitely been a process, but having let go of the need to be in the relationship brought so much peace.
Yeah, and that's a big thing that we did, and maybe I'll show it here on the screen while I talk, but the book I Need Your Love, Is That True? By Byron Katie is probably the best book that we've ever found to talk about this concept. That like to stop having that feeling of like I need this person. So this book here, I Need Your Love, Is That True? By Byron Katie. It's just a really good book on letting go of that lie that people tell themselves of like, I need this person or I need any one person to complete me. And instead start improving yourself and throwing yourself into self-improvement, having your own hobbies, your own independence. And that was something that we very much focused on. And we probably won't go down that discussion too much because that's kind of a separate discussion, a separate podcast of this. And we've covered that in the past, how to be independent in a relationship. But yeah, we very much did I pushed you to be independent when we moved because I was like, look, like you can't just be reliant on me. And you're right, there was a very big period of a couple of years where, because it was your first relationship and you were feeling all the emotions, you did believe the story of like, excuse me, like, I need you. I won't be okay without you. And so we got in there and tackled that and absolutely cleared that up. Again, that won't be the focus of this video, but
Yeah, and funnily enough, circling back to what we were saying before about expectations or my parents being separated and things being a little bit messy when I was growing up.
yeah, your parents were divorced and
Yeah, something that I've actually explored recently is the idea that if anything, I didn't necessarily expect that all relationships were. That's not actually what I took away from my parents' divorce. It wasn't that relationships are going to fail, but I think one of the things is that there was maybe some pride or some ego of like, I don't want to do the same. I don't want to make the same mistakes that my parents did.
basically every kid ever, myself
And
included, yeah. I don't want to
so
be like my parents.
there was some stubbornness there of like, I'm going to stay in this and make it work, and I need to make this work to prove that I'm not going to repeat that pattern. If anything, that actually was to my detriment because I was sometimes putting myself in situations where I wasn't happy and telling myself that I needed to basically be unhappy and that this was going to be painful and it was going to hurt. And to be clear, like with what you were saying before, like every problem absolutely does have a solution. And I think the caveat or the extra thing to add on top of that is that we were very clear that the relationship was adding something enough to both of our lives that it was worth working through the differences. And like the
Yeah.
little test that you like to give a lot is like, is this adding more to your life? Maybe you can say it because I always butcher it.
Yeah, I did a video ages ago and I've talked about it in podcast. In a relationship, my framework, and I give this to everybody, is if you're trying to figure out like, am I happy with this person? Like, do I want to stay in this relationship? There's 4 questions that I ask, and they're all basically variations of the same question. But am I happy? Is the other person happy? is them being in my life adding to my life? Like, is it a net positive? And is me being in their life adding to their life? So basically, you're asking the question of, is us being together a net benefit for both of us? Like, are we getting more out of it than we're not getting out of it? If the answer to that is yes, then okay, we got something here. Like, let's work on it. Let's improve it. But if you ask yourself those 4 questions, am I happy? No. Are they happy? No. Is this a net positive on my life? No. I think it's like actually really taken away from my life. Am I adding to their life? No. I actually think I'm taking away from their life too. Okay. Maybe we go to a therapist. Maybe we talk to our friends. Maybe we just split up. Maybe we go separate ways. Yeah.
Yeah. And so having positive answers to those questions then I guess gave us
Yeah. So to be clear, the answer to all 4 of those questions you're saying was yes. Like,
correct.
yes, you're happy. Yes, I'm happy. Yes, it's a benefit to both of us. But there's just some unhappiness here. Let's go and fix that.
Yeah, and to be clear, it's not am I happy 100% of the time because that's not realistic, but for the most part, am I happy? And so with that foundation, it was then like, okay, given that this is the case, let us now find solutions to these problems versus like no to all of those answers. Maybe the solution is to not continue to be in this relationship.
Yeah, that can be the answer sometimes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And we were messy. The first, I'd say, 4 years of our relationship was incredibly messy, which I think it is for most people. Most long-term people that I've talked to, that I know, or that I've coached, that are in a long-term relationship, like let's say like 10 years or longer. And again, we've only been together for 6 years. But people that have been together for 10 or more years, they say, yeah, the first few years were messy as hell. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. I think my mum phrased it best. She sent me this message, which I showed you. Sometimes my mum will give me relationship advice. Like, I'll ask her for it, or sometimes she'll just send me beautiful, like, things she's learned because I ask her about it all the time. She said, hey, here's one for you. She just sent me this out of the blue. A relationship is 2 imperfect people refusing to give up on each other. And again, with the caveat of like, if you're really not happy and it's really not adding to your life, then it's not giving up. It's just like you can go separate ways and build something beautiful separately. But I really like that mindset of like, you're 2 imperfect people and we're giving each other and ourselves permission to suck. And it's like, all right, let's not give up on this. There's something beautiful here. And that's the caveat. Like, if there is something beautiful there, let's get through this hard time and figure out how to come out the other side of it even better off. And I think that's something that we were pretty good at. We were like decent at, but I think we would have a positive mindset, or I would be positive to you and you would be positive to me, where we would say, let's make this mean something. If we're going through this tough time, if we're arguing for like a month straight or like 3 months straight, or there's this big this big tension in the relationship, how can we make this a good thing? Like, I want to go through this and learn from this. I want to be better off. And I think we had this discussion many times where you were like, I'm just sick of feeling like this, or I'm sick of arguing about this. I don't want to fight like this anymore, or I don't want to fight about this particular topic anymore. And I would say to you, there has to be some place that we can get to where we don't fight about this anymore. And I think we just had that vision of the future where like we would solve this particular tension or this problem. And I don't think we would have stayed if we didn't think that it was possible to solve it. Like, I don't think you and I are the people who'd be like, let's put up with this unhappiness and just accept it forever and like never solve it, or never like find some way to truly be happy with it. I don't think we can bottle things up. That's just not us.
And I think a question that you in the past have asked me a lot, and even very recently, I think in the last couple of days asked me, you asked, do you think that this is something that we're still going to be having a problem with if you project our relationship 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? Do you think this is still going to be a problem?
Yeah, so to give full context for what you're talking about, it's like one particular tension and you're stressing about it. And I will say, do you think 5 years from now, this is still going to be something we stress about? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you say, no, I think in the next 5 years, we'll be able to solve this. Okay. So like, let's start solving it. Like, and I think that's such a fun, I know I'm interrupting, but I think I just want to underline every problem has a solution, has been an underpinning of our relationship. And I think without that knowledge, I don't know if we would have stayed together. Like, honestly, that's such a cheat code. Give yourself permission to suck and your partner permission to suck, and every problem has a solution, are probably the 2 biggest things that have helped us in our relationship that we had from the very start. I know I interrupted, so if you remember what you're talking about, you can jump back in.
I think that question that I mentioned before, like, do you think this is going to be something that's a difficulty or that's not resolved in the future? I think for me as well was a sense of hope that this isn't going to last forever, because I think was my biggest takeaway from it. There was again, hope that there was a light at the end of the tunnel, that we're not going to be stuck here forever. I think because when you're in the middle of it, you can have that sense that I'm going to be here forever. I'm going to be stuck here. This is never going to end. We're never going to be able to fix this. And that rumination and those thoughts are probably what ends up leading to a lot of relationships ending, of like, this isn't going to get better.
Yeah,
We
we're
should
never
just.
going to solve this. We're always going to be unhappy. This will always be a point of tension.
And there's that panic of like, I can't keep going like this.
Yeah, all right, I'm
Versus,
leaving. Yeah. And fair enough.
yeah,
Yeah.
versus the sense that like, no, I see a future in which this isn't the case. All right, like,
Yeah, we can solve this
it
eventually.
gives you that, yeah, that little bit of positivity to be able to keep pushing forward, or at least it did for me.
I have said this. It's funny you talk about hope. I said this on a recent podcast with my other three coaches. So this video here, I did a roundtable discussion with my three coaches, Taylor, Ed, Cam, and obviously myself. And in that video, we were talking about coaching and what it is that we offer. And I said, we were talking about how I talk about how every problem has a solution. You know, anything is solvable. Like nobody is hopeless. Nobody's situation is hopeless and, unfixable or unsalvageable. And I said, we as coaches are basically hope merchants. We're selling hope. We're dealing hope. Like we're literally saying, here you go, here's some hope. Like you can fix this, you can change this, you can improve this. And I think that's what we had in our relationship. I think we had a hope that like we can fix everything. And it really was a faith or a hope. That's why I like that word hope. It wasn't a knowledge. Sometimes I call it a knowledge. Like I know in my heart of hearts now, because I have enough experience of doing this, 10 years of self-improvement, and going through being depressed and suicidal to coming out the other side of it, the complete opposite, hopeful, loving, abundance, all of that stuff. I know that every problem has a solution. And sometimes the solution is like pure acceptance and letting go and all of that. But I know every problem has a solution. But in the relationship, it really did feel like hope and faith sometimes. We weren't 100% sure, and we didn't need to be. And so none of you need to be either.
Because as you said, knowledge comes from
Experience.
having actually done things, achieved things. And if you are in a relationship or a new relationship, the nature of it is that every prior relationship has not been successful because it has ended, or you've not been in a relationship before. And so there isn't going to be that evidence. And so at the start, there is maybe a necessity for hope, or
Faith.
yeah, that things will work out, or that there is a positive outcome at the end of all of it.
Yeah, or this could possibly be improved. You don't even have to believe that you can like fix whatever relationship tension there is with both of you. You're basically just believing that we could make it a tiny bit better. And that's all we ever did. I would say that to you so many times. I would be like, look, I don't know if we can fix this, but let's just see if we can make it 0.1% better. And we would often reflect on the past, and I would say, okay, look, I know this is causing us tension right now, but is this better than it was 6 months ago? That was something I've said that to you like hundreds of times in this relationship, where we're both really stressed about something, or we're arguing about something, or there's a point of tension. I'll say, look, let's be objective here. Is this better than it was a year ago? And, even in the moment, sometimes you're angry or I'm angry, not anymore, but like we were angry in the moment, and we'd be like, oh, I don't want to say this is better. No, I hate this. I hate this tension. I want it to be fixed. And I'd be like, look, just calm down. Like, is this better than a year ago? And we'd take a step back and we'd do some deep breathing. We'd be like, fine. Yes, this has improved over the last year. And that could be like, we're better at talking about this. That's an improvement. Or I feel slightly less angry when we talk about this than I used to. Or yes, we've started making progress in this. It's not fixed. We still fight about it, or we still argue about it, or whatever, but like we've improved it. Okay, is it possible that another 2 years from now, this could be like a complete non-issue? And we almost didn't believe that at times for a lot of the things that caused us tension. But we could see the progress. And so we were like, okay, let's just keep making progress and see if this gets better. And I mean, I'll just say it, like everything that ever caused us tension, we've fixed. Like, is that a fair statement?
Yeah, or we're in the process of fixing it.
And pretty close. Like I can't, and we won't necessarily go into details, but like, I mean, we can if we want to. There's only like one or two things that I think they're not even causing tension. It's more like stuff from the past that you're working through to let go of. Like stories that we both have. Me too. I have stories from the past, but I wouldn't say that causes us any tension. Like, here's a really good example. The other day, when we recorded the previous podcast, Remember you said afterwards, you were like, hey, I've got some stuff to let go of from the past. And I was like, sweet. And then like fucking 10 minutes later, you messaged me like, hey, I let go of all the stuff from the past. I'm good. I love you so much. I'm grateful for you. That's like our arguments now. It's not even an
That was
argument.
an
It's just one of
argument.
us going, hey, honey, I've got some stuff on my mind right now. I'm going to go give myself some space. Wow, that sounds amazing. Cool. I'll see you in a little bit. 10 minutes later, we're like, hey, I let go of that. I feel good. I'm grateful for you. And we're like, beautiful. Like, you can get to, I guess this video is us being hope merchants and offering hope to anyone else that might be sitting at home or in a relationship, or maybe you're working towards one and you're arguing a lot, or there's some tension or something. Like, how can I phrase this? We're like living proof that it is possible to get to a point where, we might argue in the future. I don't fucking know, but we haven't argued for a really fucking long time. Our arguments now are comical. Like, what we might call an argument is what other people would call, like, how is that even an argument? Like, the definition of an argument in our relationship has shifted, has become so peaceful that now an argument is you're like, honey, are you being negative right now? And I'm like, yeah, maybe I'm being negative right now. And you're like, do you want to do the work on that? Do you want to talk about that? And I'll be like, yeah, okay. And then we'll talk about it and I'll let it go. That's like an argument now. And it's not even directed at the other person. So,
And if you are somebody that is struggling with hope or just having like a belief that there is something better, or
that you
that,
could improve a relationship or.
yeah, that is what the coaching is for. Like that is what you're offering. It's basically having somebody said, and you've worked with hundreds of people at this point. A
That's
lot of
that's what I'm
people,
saying. That's all coaching is. It's like,
yeah, it's a lot of people that don't believe in themselves, that don't think that they can do it, and they just want some guidance. And for you, Andy, or the coaches, and that is what is offered, to say like, no, you can absolutely do this thing. I've seen so many people in this exact same position that had the exact same beliefs that they couldn't do it, that it was hopeless, and you saying, no, I've seen this before. You're not special. You can absolutely improve this. Here is how you do so. Just do it, and you'll be fine. And I think that
yeah,
that is the magical thing that is being offered in coaching. And if
yeah,
if
and it's
it is something that you want to help with, just reach out.
yeah. There's a link in the description below to the coaching, but it's such a funny thing because you're right. Like, people will come to the coaching, or you might be watching the YouTube video, you leave a comment or something, and people go like, I really don't think this is improvable. I think like my situation cannot be improved. I think that I'm too old, too young, too this, too that, like, or it's too far gone, or there's no chance, or there's just too much work to do. It's not improvable. You and I absolutely felt like that in the relationship so many times, where it was like, this can't be improved. Like, we can't fix this. This is too much of a big hassle, or there's too much of a hurdle here. There's too much tension. There's too much stress. There's no way this is solvable. And like I'm saying, really just focusing on the progress rather than the perfection, and just saying, okay, can we at least improve it by 1%? Is there one thing that we can do right now that would make it just the tiniest little bit better? And we would focus on those little baby steps. And I think especially in a relationship, when there's all the emotions and the tension, especially during an argument, there really is a feeling of like extremes, isn't there, when you're emotional? That's how we talk when we're emotional. You're like, this is never going to get better. Or you'll use statements like, you always do this, or you never care about me. And we used to do that a little bit in the first, I don't know, 3-4 years of our relationship. We would talk in extremes.
And
And
even then, like we could call each other up on it, and we were both rational enough to say like, yes, I acknowledge it's not always, or
mm,
it's not never. But yes, we still would speak like that and emotionally feel that that was true
it felt true. Yeah,
when
it
we would say
literally
those
felt true.
things.
Like, you never care about me. Like, I remember saying that to you sometimes in the first couple of years. I'd be like, you never do anything for me. Remember that? I used to like literally say, you never do anything for me. And you would obviously be very fucking hurt by that. Because
And
that's,
defensive, and it's
yeah,
those statements that it's like, well, fuck you then if you don't think I'd do anything for you
it's an
ever. Like,
invalidation of the entire relationship, isn't it? For me to say, you never do anything for me, it's like, why am I even here then? Why have I done everything for you up until this point, or done all the things that I've done for you up until this point? Yeah, and so we would speak in very emotional terms. I think that's something that's helped, is not speaking so emotionally. And so you might say like, okay, how do I do that? Stoicism is the answer to that. Like, literally stoicism. Practice your stoicism, get better at your stoicism, and this stuff gets a lot easier. I mean, fuck, grab my video course. Let's grab the Play to Win video course. This is like the stuff that I talk about in the Play to Win video course. You can grab it below. It's $1. But there's a couple of chapters in there. Let's show the chapters on the screen. These are the names of the chapters. But a lot of the stuff that we talked about here today is the stuff that's in the goddamn video course. Like, having a growth mindset, believing that every problem has a solution. There's an entire goddamn chapter on that. But this is basically stoicism. The whole Play to Win video course is stoicism. So grab that or read, there's free versions of stoicism. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, that's on YouTube, that's free. The Book of Epictetus. But stoicism really helped us. In other words, being more logical, being more rational. And like anytime we wanted to speak emotionally, if we could, with the help of the other person, bring it back to a more logical, truthful statement. So instead of saying, you never do anything for me, the true statement is, right now, my feelings tell me that you never do anything for me. I feel like you never do anything for me. Okay, feelings aren't facts. And now we can work with the truth a little bit. Or maybe the thought is, I wish you would do more for me. Okay, I can do that. Well, that might be something that I want to do for you. Sure. What would you like me to do for you? We can now solve that. Or I'm feeling resentment because I feel like I do a lot for you and I feel like it's not reciprocated. Okay, let's explore that. If I do something for you, should that automatically be reciprocated? Is that how a relationship works? Is this a transaction? Is that the relationship that we want? We can get in there and work with the truth a little bit. And so I think being less irrational, being less emotional, or still feeling the emotions, but then saying the truthful, logical statement rather than going with the first thought that comes out of your head, which is almost always during an argument irrational and illogical and emotional. You never care about me. And it's like, that sounds like something a fucking emotional child would say.
It's a super common relationship communication strategy, or not even just relationships, but with anybody. It is just really making it about I statements rather than you and accusatory things. It's just turning it back on yourself and saying, I feel, I'm believing. And when you start making those statements, the other person's not being attacked. It does become about you, and you're just expressing facts, and that can't necessarily...
You're expressing your own point of view.
Yeah, it's almost impossible for that then to be taken as an accusatory statement, because whatever you're feeling is whatever you're feeling.
So what you just said, you can literally just change one fucking word. So in an argument or a fight, take the word you, like you want to say to the other person, you don't care about me. You did this. You made me angry. You want to say the word you. If you change the word you to I, all of a sudden there's not a fucking big fight there. Like if instead of saying you made me angry, if I say I'm feeling angry, okay, all right, I'm feeling angry. Okay, now we can deal with that. That's not about me. I don't need to be defensive anymore. Like if I say you made me angry, your first reaction is like, fuck you. You get defensive or you fight back and you say, well, you fucking did this. And you're kind of punching each other metaphorically, hopefully not physically. And by the way, if you are punching each other physically, you can seek help with that. No judgment from us. I feel like I'd throw that in there. But yeah, if you change the word you to I, and this outside of a relationship as well, that's like a game changer for life. If you stop blaming the external world or other people for things and instead take responsibility, oh my fucking God, everything changes. And that's just a fundamental baseline foundation of stoicism. That's why I keep talking about stoicism.
Yeah, because the flow-on statement after I feel this is like, okay, what do I want to do about it? What's in my control that I can actually do? Not what do they need to change? It's like, okay, I'm feeling this way. What do I need to do? What can I do? What is possible in the realms of my control?
Which is so much more empowering. If I say you make me angry, then the solution is, well, you need to change.
Yeah. And
but how can I affect that? I'm not you.
Trying to control the external world, that's just going to cause a lot of pain and suffering and resentment to everything and everyone around you.
Yeah. But if I say I'm angry, okay, what can I do about that? That's in my domain of control. That's in my dominion of control. I can take steps. If I'm feeling angry, I can go to anger management class. I can read books like Loving What Is. I can do meditation. I can do some letting go. I can go for a nice walk. I can take space from you.
And I can remove myself from the things that make me angry, or I can change my life circumstances. If I hate my job, if I hate my boss, I can quit. I can have a conversation with my boss. There's things that I can do to not put myself in situations that anger me every single day.
And this is basically again, underpinning of stoicism is like, what can I change in my own life? Instead of blaming everyone else and the external world, which just leaves me unempowered, that's not very empowering for yourself. You're making yourself a victim. And victims don't have agency. That's why we call them a victim. But if you use stoicism and if you say, okay, I am feeling angry right now during this fight, or I feel like you don't listen to me, like that's me and my feelings. I then have power over that. I can then change something. I can improve that.
Would we like to talk about some of the other techniques that we've
Fuck
found
yes. Yes.
to be helpful?
Absolutely, we would.
I think one of the things that we do like to do a lot and we use a lot now, because I would say for the last couple of months, I've probably been the lowest I've been in a while. I've been very low energy, and the technique for me or the trick for us has been just communicating that and
Just saying that, yeah.
saying something along the lines of, I don't have anything to give right now. I don't have much to give, and acknowledging that I'm not feeling good right now. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time with you or promise you things or try and do a lot and empty my already quite empty cup even more.
Yeah.
I'm giving back to myself. I'm taking time away and I'm making sure that I'm in a good place so that I actually do have something to give once I'm feeling a little bit more energetic, once I'm feeling a little bit better.
This comes up in the coaching program all the freaking time because for everyone listening, like, you can kind of like think about how committed to your goals you would have to be to reach out to me, go through the entire screening process of the coaching program, and there's like a full-on questionnaire, and then I get on a call with someone and make sure they're a good fit. There's a whole screening process. Then you're paying, for the group coaching, $11,000. For the one-on-one coaching, you're paying $20,000 US dollars too. You're paying a big fucking chunk of money. And yes, we have payment plans and all of that, but it's still a commitment. You're really, really, really dedicated to becoming into the coaching program. And those tend to be people who put a fuckload of pressure on themselves to make the most of the coaching program, to make the most of their time in the program, and to make the most of their life. And so they tend to be people that will push themselves to the point of sometimes even a breakdown. And we have videos in the coaching program literally saying what to do if you feel like you're going to have a breakdown. Like we literally have a support network in there, and we encourage people to not push themselves and to be more loving and more gentle and all of that. Like that's a big part of the coaching, is like people come in and they're putting a ton of pressure on themselves, and we basically go like, hey, here's a big hug, everything's okay, you don't have to put a lot of pressure on yourself, blah blah blah. And so we understand fundamentally, or we talk a lot in the coaching program about recharging your batteries and checking your energy levels and saying, okay, right now I don't have a lot to give. There just isn't a lot in the tank. The tank is running on empty, or my batteries are down to like 5%. I'm about to run out of batteries. How can I recharge those batteries? How can I do something nice for myself? How can I do a bit of self-love? How can I give myself some space? And that has been such a core part of our relationship, is like checking your fucking energy levels. Like, are you stressed? Are there thoughts in your head you haven't dealt with? Is there limiting beliefs in your head that are causing you a lot of pain and suffering? Do you just not have any fucking energy? Are you not sleeping? Are you tired? Are you angry because you're believing something and that's kind of causing some friction and some tension? Like listening to our internal voices and then having the integrity, and it came with practice. It took a lot of practice, but having the integrity to say, hold up, I don't have a lot to give today. I'm running on empty. No, I don't want to go and spend time with you today. And we say it in a nicer way than that, but we say it the way you just said. We say, look, I really don't have a lot to give today, or I'm just feeling really drained today. There just isn't much in the tank. I don't think I can give you anything today. I can't give you my time, or I can give you my time, but it has to be chill time. And we've said that to each other like, God, what, 1,000 times in this relationship? Sometimes from you, sometimes from me. There's been long periods of time where I'm really fucking busting my ass, with the business to bring in coaching clients and pay the bills and pay off the tax debt and all of that. And I will literally say to you, I know we're spending today together. I know we like promised each other and, I want to, but I have nothing to give today. And so do you mind if we just lay on the fucking couch and play some video games? Do you mind if we just go for a little walk so we can get some exercise, and then we just sit in a cafe and we don't do much? Do you mind if we just cuddle today? We go sit on the beach or something, or sit like, in the shopping center. We have a shopping mall that has like couches and stuff you can lay on. It's very nice. Can we just lay on the fucking couch and cuddle each other in the shopping mall and do that for 2 hours? And I will literally say to you, I don't have very much to give. Is that okay? And you've done that with me a million times. Like literally this morning you were like, hey, Andy, you're very energetic, because guess what? I'm always energetic.
And you get extra chaotic when you don't sleep.
Yeah, I didn't sleep much last night, and I get very I bounce off the walls when I don't sleep.
Which
Yeah.
doesn't make much sense, but
Makes sense to me.
I'm sure it does.
And so, like, think about a little kid. A little kid when they haven't had much sleep, they're gonna be a
They
little
throw
psycho.
tantrums and
Yeah, I
like
don't throw tantrums.
cry
I don't
a
throw
lot
tantrums. I throw
when they get
excited
tired.
tantrums. It's not a tantrum. I get excited.
Yes,
I
but
get passionate and excited. Anyway,
the point being it's understanding your own boundaries. And I think as people that put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and I think a lot of people do, especially if you're in any self-development, self-improvement circles, or that's just something that you care about, it's very easy to put a lot of pressure on yourself and say like, no, I should be able to do the things that I'm used to doing, or
yeah,
like,
I promised you that we would spend time together. Therefore, I can't back out of it, or I can't just have chill time with you. I promised we were going to go on this road trip or something. I can't let you down.
yeah, you put a lot of pressure on yourself to maintain a really high standard. Sometimes you don't have that to give, and the more pressure you
Yeah,
put on yourself, the less pleasant of a person you're going to be, the more
for
likely
sure.
you are to take that out on other people, to be less patient. And I think, yeah, it's really just understanding those boundaries. And I think the other thing that I would probably add on to this as well, I think something that's been really important is having independence and
Mm.
saying, yes, I need space. But I think if relationships become too enmeshed, it's very easy
Yeah,
to
like two joined together.
rely on the other person to make you feel better.
Mm.
Because what we do all of the time now is say, I'm not feeling good, therefore I'm going to go away and deal with that myself, versus I don't feel good right now.
You need to
Fix it.
fix this.
Help me
Yeah,
fix this. Like
yeah.
be my support person. Be the person that makes it feel better. Make me feel okay.
We
Which
did
is
that a lot in the at the start, didn't we? We would like rely on the other person to fix our emotions.
and that's fine every now and then if you really need somebody to lean on. But at some point in time, the other person doesn't just want to be your therapist.
Or your punching bag. Remember, I said that to you at some point? I was like, I
Mm,
don't just want to be your punching bag that every time you're emotional, you just dump it on me and I have to just deal with it. I
mm,
remember we had that discussion. We phrased it a little nicer than that, but we've done a video on this. So it's the one at the top here. Always keep your independence in a relationship. We talked about like how to build that independence and how to have a support network outside of your like relationship, friends, hobbies, therapist if you want to, like
mm.
coach, I'm here obviously, but like someone or a bunch of people, it's better if it's multiple people, like lots of people that you can go to and be like, hey, look, I'm really stressed. I need to recharge my batteries. And you don't have to go to them and complain about the relationship. That's not what we're saying. You can if you want to, but like we try not to complain about each other. Anyway, fine, separate discussion. But like yeah, there are a billion times we'll go to someone else and be like, hey, look, I'm really stressed in the relationship. Andy's doing this and I support that. I love that, whatever. But like, yeah, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm believing. Can you help me with that? Or even just going to your friends and saying, yo, can we just hang out
Mm.
and just have a nice time? And that will make me feel better rather than putting it on the other person. Like, you have to fix my bad mood all the time.
Yeah, so then you can come back into the relationship feeling more energized, having more to give, feeling more loving,
Mm,
like
mm.
being able to deal with this stuff on your own.
Yeah, and similar to that, like sometimes we have literally said this where we're like, can I just have some space? Like, I just need some time by myself.
Mm.
And at the start, that was very fucking hard. So, it's completely okay if for some of you, if you're going through this, it's hard for you too. Like, it was literally hard. Sometimes, like, we had to practice it where you would
Mm.
say, I don't have a lot to give right now, or I'm feeling really angry. Or we would say, like, I really feel like I want to lash out at you and say something mean. Like, I'm
Mm.
really just angry right now. I'm really annoyed. Can I have some space? Right. I want to go have some space. It was really hard for me to let that happen
And
because,
then,
like, I'm someone that wants to fix things. And I was like, no, we're going
mm.
to stay here and talk about it. And, like, yeah.
Yeah, it was very much a practiced thing to
Mm,
actually receive that from your partner as well, to be able to say, like,
yep.
okay, I will let you go and do that. I trust that you're not going to do something that's self destructive.
Yeah. You're
I'm,
angry right now, and I'm going to have to let you go deal with it on your own. Like, yeah.
yeah, and I think the other thing as well, just even in small ways of like, I'm tired today, I don't have much to give. I think you, Andy, are somebody that gets very excited and you're like, oh, but I really want to spend time together. What if we do this? What if we do this? Like, what if we make it better? And that has
What
been,
if I give you coffee? Like, remember I used to do that for the first couple of years when you were like, I'm tired and I don't have a lot to give. I'd be like, oh, what if you just have a coffee? And it's like, you're not listening to me.
yeah. And I think as somebody that already, especially in the early days, had a hard time saying no
Yeah, you
or
did
feeling
struggle
like
with
I was
boundaries at the
disappointing
start.
you,
Yeah.
a lot of the time I would just say yes again. And then there was that frustration of like, okay, now I'm even more unhappy in the time that we're spending together because I asked to not be here. And then you pushed me, and
Mm,
obviously gently, but I have a hard time saying no.
mm,
Now I'm here, and now I'm even in a worse mood. because I don't want to be here. And I said I don't want to be here. And I'm already in a bad mood. And yeah, it was definitely a learning process, and it took some practice to be able to both ask for and then receive that feedback for
Yeah.
said space.
And we would both take it personally too sometimes. I think me especially.
Yeah, of like I was really looking forward. Like I'm disappointed because you get that disappointed feeling of like I had these expectations for today, and you're saying you can't deliver that. Like I do feel sad, and sometimes then the expression of that disappointment can feel like pressure, or can feel somewhat, I don't like this word, but like manipulative, in that like there's a sense of like guilt tripping into doing what I want, and that's never the intention, but it's a practice thing to be more peaceful and understanding with all of this stuff.
Yeah, all of this is to say it took us quite a few years of practice to be okay with the statement, hey, I need some space for today, or I just want to do my own thing. Like, I just want to be by myself for today so I can recharge, or like, let me just go and do my own thing for a few hours and then I'm going to see how I feel. That's something else that we did quite a lot that really helped. We'll still do that now today sometimes. It's like, look, I don't know if I want to spend time together today because I'm just stressed or I'm busy with my other shit. Give me a couple hours and then I'll message you and see how I feel. Does that work for you? And sometimes the answer is, yeah, that works for me. Sometimes it's like, nah, let's just agree right now that we'll do separate things. So I'm not sitting here waiting for you to get back to me. Like, fine. But yeah, that was something that I really struggled with. When you would say, can I have space? I would often take it personally too. Like in the early days, I had a lot of insecurity in the relationship, I think, because of my first two relationships and the fact that they didn't, well, they ended basically. And so you would say, can I have some space? Or I just need some space. Or look, just let me do my own thing today. And I would take it personally. I'd be like, did I do something wrong? Or it wasn't even that. It's like, could I do something to fix this? So it's not necessarily, did I do something wrong? It's like, can I fix this? Is this in my dominion of control? Can I fix this? And yeah, it took a while, like 6 months, maybe a year, for me to get to the point where if I heard the statement, I need space or can I do my own thing, that I would just be like, yeah, okay. Because you're right. I was very disappointed because I had expectations. We've talked about this a billion times on the channel. If you can get your mindset to a place where you have no expectations, just curiosity. In other words, if you can be open-minded to whatever experience life gives you, whatever happens in life, you know, your partner saying, hey, I know we were going to spend time together today, but I don't want to. If you can hear that and go, okay, cool. I wonder what adventure I'm going to go on by myself today. Man, life is just beautiful. But yeah, for the first couple of years, I was not like that. You'd say, can I have space? And I'd be like, God damn it. I was like getting excited about today. And, you know, there's just expectations.
Yeah, and I think as well, especially if you've been in a habit for a few years where somebody always does say yes and you never say no, it's probably going to be really fucking jarring
You
at the
said yes
start.
to everything at the
Yeah,
start.
and
Yeah.
so I think that was part of the difficulty with us, is that for quite a few years, always say yes. It was almost something had to be really terrible for me to ever say no.
Yeah.
And so at the start, it was a bit confronting just because we weren't used to that.
Yeah. I think similarly with all of this, a mindset that helped us a lot is you'll probably feel better in the morning.
100%.
We've said that a billion times. That's something that my mother said, and some of you, maybe your mothers told you that growing up, but my mother used to say that all the time when I was stressed at school or one of my friends and I had a fight or something. My mum would be like, you'll feel better in the morning, darling. And eventually I came to see that that was almost always true. Not with like something no, I'll just say with almost everything. Like even if you get a fucking cancer diagnosis and you're really stressed about that, you go to sleep, you wake up the next morning and you're like, right, I still have cancer, but like, okay, now what are we going to do? Like sleep just seems to reset things and you do feel better. It's like the emotions fade away. You wake up kind of groggy and a little bit like, maybe not groggy, but like you wake up, you're still kind of waking up in the morning. The emotions aren't usually as strong in the morning. And so you're kind of a little bit more, I guess, rational. And so that was something that we would say to each other a lot and say to ourselves. If there was tension, I'd be like, let's just go to sleep and see how we feel. And especially with the stuff that was more emotionally based, we would wake up the next day and be like, why the fuck did I care about that? I didn't even care about that. And so that's kind of a nice little thing you can do as well. If you're feeling like you want to have an argument or you're feeling like there's tension, you can kind of just say, let's talk about this in the morning. That's a fucking cheat code for relationships. It's like, let's talk about this in the morning. Well, let's talk about this tomorrow.
And I think even The thing I would add to that as well, especially because this tends to happen in the evening when you're having those big disagreements
Because you're
because you're
grumpy and
tired.
tired and irrational in the evening. Yeah, yeah.
I think it's also leaving it off, even if you don't feel like it. There's been so many times where I've felt so angry and I wanted to say something that's not kind, but
Yeah,
I
you want to
say,
lash out at the other
but the
person.
last thing I say, and it takes so much willpower sometimes. I'm much, much better at it now, but it's like, I love you. Let's talk about it in the morning. Like you end on something that's nice, even if you don't feel like saying that's nice. And I think something that you said to me quite a while ago that helped me was even if I don't feel like saying this thing right now, or this is taking a lot of effort for me to say, and maybe I don't even
Like
believe
saying
it.
something kind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
saying I love you, or I care about you, or I appreciate you, or I understand, or whatever it might be. I like the person I am
mm,
when I do that thing. So even if I don't feel like it, I know future Imi is going to be like, I'm glad I acted in that way.
yeah,
And similarly, I know one that you say is like not doing something that you're going to regret. But in the positive, I like who I am when I do this thing. So I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to say I love you, even if I don't feel like saying I love you. I'm going
yeah.
to go to bed and maybe we can deal with it in the morning.
Yeah, and that takes practice and conscious effort.
Mm.
It doesn't anymore. All of this stuff is second nature to us now, but this took quite a few years of habit of intentionally doing all of this stuff. And let's riff off a little bit of what you just said. You kind of like said it briefly there, but not saying something that you'll regret.
Mm.
That has been in my head, not anytime recently, but like for the first 4 fucking years of this thing, that was in my head so many times where I'd want to lash out and I'd want to be like, "You bitch, you don't care about me," or like some irrational, grumpy thing.
Mm.
And in my head, I'd be like, "If you say that, how are you going to feel a week from now, Andy?" And my ego would be like, "I'll feel justified, like she is being a bitch." And then I'd be like, "No, Andy, how are you going to feel a week from now? What has happened every other time you've said something mean or emotionally based in the moment where you thought you were justified, you thought you were right? How did you feel a week later?" "Well, a
Mm.
week later, I kind of felt guilty, and that isn't the person that I want to be. I don't want to be the person that punches someone, especially not physically, but like, attacks someone verbally in the moment. I don't want to be the person who says something irrational. That's not who I see myself as. I see myself as a logical, rational person.
Mm.
That's who I want to be. I see myself as a kind, nice person. That's who I want to be. If I say this mean statement right now, a week from now, what is going to happen? Well, a week from now, I'm probably going to go back and be like, "I really wish I hadn't said that to you." Okay, so why would I say it now? I'm literally I'm giving future me a problem that I'm going to have to deal with in the future. Like I'm literally fucking myself over in a way, not in a big way. It's only, but like it felt like that. I was like, I'm just going to fuck myself over if I say this thing. And
Mm.
so it took so much conscious effort and willpower, like you're saying at the start. And then eventually it just becomes second nature. And then you become the kind person who never says anything mean.
Mm.
But it took a lot of practice. It really did. And there were so many moments where I'd be like, "Don't fucking say it, Andy." And there were times I would type out a message to you.
Oh, I do that all the time, but I do it like not to you. I do it in like a separate thing. Like I do it in my notes and I'd write my angry message and then I delete it.
Yeah. And so that's something that you can do. Write it down on a piece of paper. Like
Mm.
that's something that many counselors and couples therapists will give as an exercise.
Like
They'll
write a
say,
letter to your partner.
"Yep, write it all down to your partner." And then you can show it to them when you're both calm and rational if you want to, as long as you understand the context of like, "Look, honey, I was really pissed off. I don't mean any of this. Like, let's analyze this and figure out what to do about it." Like you can do it that way, or you can just never send it to them and you can maybe tell them and
Mm.
say, "I wrote you this angry letter. I don't want to show it to you, but yeah, it kind of helped." And
And
you can use
often,
that as a fun exercise.
often the process of writing it out takes away some of the emotionality of it because they're not just these emotional thoughts bouncing around in your head. You actually have to
It's
take the
not an
time,
angry emotion.
yeah,
It's a written
to
statement.
turn it into a rational statement
Mm.
that's written out. And sometimes as you write it out, you realize that it is emotional and that you don't necessarily believe the things that you're feeling or thinking.
Yeah, and you can do what's known as the work on it. Byron Katie, I talk about her all the time. You can let go, you can talk about it with your partner. We did that. And something that we did a lot is I would get you to write out all of the stuff in the relationship that you were unhappy with, or that you were annoyed about, or that you were stressed about, or that was causing you any pain or suffering in any way.
Mm.
I would get you to write it all out. And sometimes you would write me these like literally 10-page freaking things of like, "I'm annoyed about this. I'm sad about this. I wish Andy would do this. I wish blah, blah, blah. I wish that it was like this." And you would write it all out. And
Mm.
then once you'd got it all down on paper, we would sit down together. And again, we were very contextual with this. I was like, look, I understand these are your petty thoughts. These are your irrational, emotional thoughts. I'm going to do my best not to take these personally. If I do take any of them personally, I will tell you, we'll take a break, we'll pause, all of this kind of context for this. It's not just like you write down your angry thoughts. You're a fucking asshole boyfriend, you fucking piece of shit. Like, no, it was very calm, very logical, very rational. And we would gently make our way through that list one by one over a period of sometimes days or weeks. And we'd go, okay, you're angry at me because I don't keep the kitchen clean and you like it to be clean. What can we do about that? What's something that you could do about that? What's something that I could do about that? How can we solve this problem? And so we very much went into it with a mindset of every problem has a solution. How do we improve this? Do we let it go? Is this something that we just go, yeah, Andy likes to keep the kitchen messy. Okay, cool.
We don't live together is the
Yeah,
solution.
that was kind of the solution. So that was a solution. And so many times, I don't know if you remember, you probably do. There was stuff that we would write down and you'd be like, I don't think this is solvable. And I would say to you, there is a solution. I know it. Just faith and hope. You don't have to know there's a solution, but I have faith that we can come up with a solution. I'm sure we can. I don't know what the solution is going to be. I can't even fucking imagine what the solution might be, but I'm willing to try. Are you? And then we would spend the next couple of months brainstorming. We would just talk about it every couple of days. Hey, I've been thinking about this again. What about if we did this? And you'd be like, maybe, but wouldn't that have this negative side effect? Oh, what about this? And we'd talk about it. And then eventually we'd come up with some fucking insane 420 IQ. I'm not giving us credit for that. It's just some insane thought would just pop into your head where you're like, wait, what if we did this?
And it really is thinking outside of the box. Very simple things you would think that a couple who's been together for 6 years would live together.
But we don't.
No. And that's very uncommon. I've had lots of people comment on that when I mention it. But it works for us. And sometimes it will require doing something that's a little bit unusual, but it's the solution for us.
Yeah, that's the weirdest solution. It's not weird to us, but the weirdest solution to some of our problems, which was we don't sleep very well together. If we sleep in the same bed, we don't sleep very well. And if we live in the same space 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
I just get irritable.
Yeah, we both feel like we don't have enough space to be by ourselves. We're two people that like a bit of meditative space. We like nobody else to be in that space. We like to just be alone. And you could say, well, go into your bedroom. And it's but then it feels restrictive. I'm just stuck in my bedroom. I want the whole fucking apartment. We also are two people that very, 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 very much like having our own space. You, because you felt growing up, you were bouncing back and forwards between mummy and daddy's house. They had shared custody. It was 50%, right? Yeah. So it's you never had a space that was yours. It's you kind of had two spaces, but you're bouncing back and forwards between both of them. And you would sometimes forget something and you left it at dad's house, but now you're at mum's house and oh God, I have to just not have that thing. I left my books over there. It's very much bouncing back and forth between spaces. So you very much wanted your own space that was yours. And when we live together, it's well, now there's two people and Andy wants the kitchen this way. You want the kitchen that way. You felt like you were sharing someone's space because you were, obviously. You felt like it wasn't your space. And that was something that was very fucking important to you. And me too. For many different reasons, I like having my own space. And I want this to be my safe haven, my castle. And some of the reasons why it doesn't feel like that at times. But that's something that's very fucking precious to me. I want to go outside into the, big, beautiful world, do my adventures, and then come home and just be alone. And so that's something that is very important to both of us. And it might seem like a weird solution, but our solution was literally, do we just live in separate apartments, baby, for the rest of our lives? And yeah, we'll stay together when we're traveling and stuff like that, of course. But do we just always have two separate apartments? And for a couple that is this dedicated to our relationship, which we are, we spend fucking 10 hours a day focusing on our relationship and improving it. We have been so intentional and dedicated to this relationship. More so than I think a lot of married couples are. And for someone that is that fucking dedicated to this relationship, for us to live apart might seem weird, but for us, it's the perfect fucking solution. But it might not be the first solution that comes to your brain, which is the point that we're making. And so if you can think outside the box, yes, every single problem in your relationship has a solution. They might be weird, wild things. You know, how many times have you and I thought about this? Like, your mother and her partner, she's not a great sleeper and he wakes her up a lot. My parents, my father snores really fucking loudly and my mother is a really light sleeper. And so for both of those relations, so my mother has for the last like 30 years just put up with the fact that she doesn't always get great sleep.
Could not
I know.
fathom.
I'd want to fucking die and kill myself. And for me, I'm just like, why don't you guys just sleep in separate beds? Like, now that my sister and I have moved out, you know, we moved out years ago, there's 2 bedrooms in my parents' house that are free. It's like, why don't you just, and sometimes she does. So she started doing that a little bit more, remember? Like, and but it's like, that's such a simple solution. Just go sleep in the separate bed. You still love each other. You can still cuddle. You could literally cuddle in bed. And then right when one of you is starting to fall asleep, you say, okay, good night, beautiful. Okay, bye, hubby. And then you go, you know, into the separate bedroom. Like, it's such an easy solution. But if you don't think outside the box, you'll often think that a problem in a relationship is just unfixable. And then you'll just sort of suppress it. And there's resentment and all of that. And that can just come out in the middle of an argument. Whereas you and I have said from the very beginning, no, we don't want to compromise. We did compromise and sacrifice a lot in the first few years, and we were not okay with that. We both were like, no, I don't want to sacrifice. I don't want to compromise. And we both firmly believed that you don't have to compromise or sacrifice in a relationship. And I think that's something that people get twisted up. They're like, oh, our relationship involves compromises. No, it doesn't have to. You can both be mutually perfectly satisfied. You can both be so unbelievably happy with the solution, but it might require months of brainstorming before you come up with something. And you might have to try a whole bunch of different solutions and really think outside the box and come up with some wacky and wild shit. It's not that wacky to live separately, but it kind of is. People will probably say it when we've been together. I can't predict the future, but let's say we're together for 30 years. 30 years from now,
If we're not living together.
if we're still living separately, people are probably going to be like, what the fuck? And it's like, this is what works for us.
I find too as well, it's typically older people that seem to have some concerns about it. Like my old housemate, she was like in her 50s and she was a bit drunk one night and she was like, Imogen, just like, and she had this like big chat with me and I was standing there like, like she was just like, he's not the one if you can't live together and like, rah, and I was like, okay, I'm just single 50-year-old lady.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it's sweet of her, the intention there that she's trying to help you, but she's single and she's in her 50s.
And she's had like
she's giving you love
before and
advice.
stuff. Yeah, it was.
She's single
cute.
and she's in her 50s. And obviously, if you're not doing something, you can still give advice. But yeah, anyway, separate discussion. That's sweet though, that she's like trying to look out for you.
Yeah, no, it was.
Also, the entire concept of the one.
It came from a good place, so I wasn't offended at all.
Did you show her my video? You know, when she's like,
No, and
you know,
of course she doesn't know when like
he's
that,
not
like,
the one for you.
We sleep with other women together.
He's
God
not the
forbid
one
she
for
found
you.
that
And then
out.
you're like, well, listen, here's Andy's channel. Look at this video up here. Whoops, what did I just do? The one is bullshit. You give her that video. You're like, the one is bullshit. Like, anyway, whatever, separate.
I could see a world. This is entirely separate. This is me just rambling now. But like a world in which if we had a house together and there were 2 floors and they were like
If
almost
there was
like
like very separate space, I could live with
duplicate
you.
floors of like
Sure.
separate kitchens, separate bathrooms, separate bedrooms. And I was like, this is my zone. You don't come in my zone. This is your zone. I don't really come in your zone unless we've specifically said you're welcome into my zone right now. Sure. But,
I would like that. Yeah. We're 2 people that like our own space. Let's start finishing up, but let's like throw 1 or 2 more. Maybe we just rapid fire a couple of other things that have helped us during moments of tensions and arguments and stuff like that. Obviously, the book, I Need Your Love. Is that true? I would just say this is probably the thing. Like, I would just give this book to everyone who's in a relationship or is thinking about it. This is probably the best piece of advice, like the best thing I could ever give you for arguments. Obviously, my video course, Play to Win, and I'm not just like shoving this video course down your throat just because I get money for it. I only get $1 for it if you pay me that. But there's so many mindsets in this that like have been instrumental. Probably the biggest one is every problem has a solution and like how to actually make that happen. On top of that, some things that have helped is if you want something from your partner, give it to yourself. That's been the biggest thing. Like if the kitchen is messy and I'm like, Imogen, clean the kitchen. And you're like, I'll get around to it. And I keep nagging. At some point, it's like, wait, I'm the fucking one that wants the kitchen clean. Why don't I grow the fuck up and clean the kitchen? Like, I want that thing. And people get very childlike in a relationship. And we used to, where it's like, you slam your hands down on the table. You'll be like, I did the vacuuming. You need to clean the kitchen. And it's like, you're the one that cares about the clean kitchen. Go clean the kitchen. So if you want something, you do it first. And that comes from Byron Katie. She has a quote, or she has a story about she's a mother and she wanted her kids to pick up their socks. They would come home from school, throw their socks on the floor in their own bedroom too, anyway. But in their bedroom, they would throw the socks
Oh,
on the
really?
floor.
They weren't even like in the
No,
living
just in her
space?
fucking bedroom. And she would get very grumpy because parents tend to get
Okay.
fucking psycho about random shit that really doesn't matter.
Mm.
But in their mind, it matters because it's for a greater purpose. If they don't pick up their socks, then, they'll end up homeless and they'll fucking burn down in a hospital and they'll end up as a bad kid if they don't pick up their socks. Like, you tell a big crazy story. But she wanted her kid to pick up the socks and she would argue for years and years and years and years and years. And the kids just didn't pick up the socks because guess what? They don't fucking care. You haven't given them a reason to care about picking up the socks. If you paid them $5 to pick up the socks, they would. So there you go. You could do that. That's a solution. But at some point, it clicked in her mind and she was like, wait, I'm the one that has the problem with the socks on the floor. Why don't I just pick them up? And she started picking them up and she would have a smile on her face while she did it because she's like, now the room's clean. And then funnily enough, the kids saw that she picked up the socks and that the room looked cleaner.
And then she was happy about it too. And
she
then they
was
were like,
happy.
oh, maybe I'd be happy if I picked up the
Yeah, and then they
socks.
started doing it. And it wasn't even about
Yeah.
that. She didn't even care if they did it by
Yeah.
that point. But
Yeah.
that's been a game changer, is if we want something in the relationship, we go first. Similarly, if we want something from that person, like let's say I want your time. Let's say I want you to spend time with me, but you've said, I don't have a lot to give today. I can't give you time. Okay, what I'm wanting is companionship. Why don't I just give myself companionship? Why don't I go hang out with my friends? Why don't I go try a new hobby? Why don't I go for a nice walk on the beach? Why don't I listen to an audiobook? Why don't I just be my own companion, spend time together with myself and do something nice? Play a fucking video game that I want to play, whatever. But whatever I'm trying to get from you, if you don't want to give it in that moment, rather than doubling down and blackmailing and being like, well, I give you what you want. And, rather than any of that shit, okay, Imogen doesn't want to give me this thing right now. That's cool. How do I give that to myself? And that applies outside of relationships. If you're a single guy and you're wanting to go out there and like talk to women, like hit on women and have sex or something, if one particular woman isn't interested in you, or any women listening, if a guy just stops responding to you on Messenger or whatever, great. Go get that with someone else or give that to yourself rather than trying to get it from that one person who clearly doesn't want to give it to you. So that's been helpful. And the same thing is if I want you to open up about something and trust me and start talking to me, how about I just go first? I'll open up to you first. And then you'll either reciprocate or you won't. And I'll
Yeah.
be happy either way.
But
yeah,
9 times out of 10, it makes it so much easier for another person to.
if I go
Yeah.
first. Yeah. Similar to that is giving yourself love. That's probably the biggest one. And again, that's what this entire book is. This book is literally about how to stop seeking love from your partner. And that might sound like a radical notion. I'm kind of summarizing the book pretty quickly here, but basically how to give yourself that love that you're seeking. And so if I'm wanting love from you, but you're busy or you're grumpy or you're tired, I can give love to myself. How would I do that? I would do mirror therapy, which I've talked about many times on this channel. You say, I love you to yourself in the mirror. I could journal. I could build an awesome life for myself and have hobbies and friends and ambitions. That's love. I could write a list of 50 things about myself that are likable, that are lovable. That's building love with yourself. I can have hobbies and all of that. So I can, in other words, put on my own oxygen mask and then I can help my partner with theirs. So handle my own life and make sure I'm okay. And then I can help the other person. And then I don't need anything from the other person.
Yeah.
Similar to that, we've let go of all obligations or expectations. Like we don't say, you should do this.
Yeah, it circles back to a lot of the stuff that we were saying before about putting shoulds on another person, telling them that they're doing things that they shouldn't be.
Yep. On top of that, gratitude. Saying 50, we'll probably say 50 times a day that we're grateful to each other for something. And we will consciously do it at the end of the day. I have like I have a reminder in my phone that says, tell Imogen some things that you're grateful for today with her, with life in general. So gratitude has been a beautiful one. If we're ever irrational, we said that one, we just say, I'm grumpy right now. But yeah, I think the biggest one that maybe we'll end on is we gave ourselves permission to suck with all of this. We were not perfect with any of this. We're still not perfect today. We're a hell of a lot better. We don't really fight anymore at all. But it took many years to get to this point. And we argued a lot in the first 4 years of our relationship. A lot of angry fights, a lot of yelling, a lot of things that we regretted saying. And all of that, through all of that, we gave ourselves permission to suck. And we knew that it would take practice. And we had a vision of the future, a vision of that future where we don't argue anymore. And we're at a point where we're just calm and rational, because we could see glimpses of that. We could see little moments where we would want to be angry, but we'd take a deep breath and we'd be calm and we'd be like, wow, imagine if it was always like that. Imagine if we could always, every time we wanted to fight, just take a deep breath and say something calmly and then resolve it. Wouldn't that be amazing? And it's like, we shot so far beyond that point. Just getting to that point would have been amazing. We're now at the point where we don't even get angry. We don't even take that deep breath. There's nothing to take a deep breath for. We just talk about it rationally. It's almost like all the emotion has gone out of it. And if any emotions even come up, it's like we can be detached from them and notice them and listen to them. And we're not swept up in anger or rage or frustration or any of that sort of stuff.
Or I think even, and I'm still somebody that feels emotions very strongly, but they're not directed at you. I'm just feeling the emotions. And then I think for you, Andy,
It's not personal, yeah.
it's a lot easier for you to deal with that. Not that you're the one that's dealing with it, but to be around while I'm experiencing those emotions, because they're not directly at you. I just happen to be a person that's grumpy or frustrated or sad. It's not you're making me this way or I'm directing any of that energy at you. It's just I'm in my own bubble feeling this way and you happen to be present while that's happening.
Yeah, and that underlines the way that we phrased it before. The way that you used to say things and that I used to say things was, you're making me grumpy. Whereas now it's, I am feeling grumpy.
Yeah, or even today, it's just like, I don't have the emotional capacity to deal with chaotic energy
To
today.
do something high energy and crazy and exciting. I just want to chill today. It's not personal. It's got nothing to do with the other person. I'm just tired. Okay, cool. We can deal with that. So yeah, give yourself permission to suck with all of this. Give your partner permission to suck with all of this. If you're not perfect at giving yourself permission to suck, give yourself permission to suck at giving yourself permission to suck. And progress, not perfection. If you want more help with this, obviously I have a coaching program. We've had a ton of people in the program that have literally come to us for relationships, or they're already in a relationship, particularly the couple that was in one for 10 years already. And they basically came to us for like, how do we build this like even stronger relationship? How do we implement things like a weekly check-in, like an accountability check-in? Like
also
we do?
they're wanting to like start seeing women together.
Yeah, they started threesome, like open relationship. That was something they'd wanted to explore. So we helped them with that. So yeah, this channel isn't only, I know we do a lot of videos about sex and BDSM and stuff like that, but a lot of this channel, or a lot of what we help people with, is relationships. If that sounds appealing to you, there's a link down below to that. I will also leave a link below to this, my video course, the Play to Win video course. You can pay whatever you want for that. Basically, it's donation paid. If that's $1, beautiful, amazing. That is down below. As always, ladies and gentlemen, what should these wonderful, beautiful, lovely human beings at home do?
Go out
Well,
there.
there's nothing they should do. I interrupted. Don't bite me. You bit me. You see this? Okay, so no.
I do a lot, but I don't bite
The
you.
freaking, that is...
No. I yawn, and Andy sticks his fingers in my mouth when I yawn, and so I bite them gently.
Yawns, okay, that is a weird thing. I do a lot of weird things in this relationship, don't I?
Weird things.
Every time.
And so when I'm tired, I can't
Let me explain myself.
deal with the chaos.
I feel like explaining it is going to make it sound even weirder. But every time you yawn, I don't know why. Guys at home, girls at home, tell me.
Nobody else does this.
When your partner at home yawns...
I'm fully justified to gently bite your finger if you stick it in my mouth when I yawn.
I need to ask the audience. When your partner at home yawns, you know, they've got the big gob open, big mouth open wide, do you not have the urge to just like stick a finger in their mouth? Like, is that just me?
And then
I can't be the only one who sees their partner yawning and wants to just like stick a finger in there. The follow-on from that
is that if your partner stuck their finger in your mouth, would you feel like biting down on it or sucking on their finger?
Hurt. You don't hurt me.
Correct. I'm not like, I don't aggressively bite you, but my teeth gently close, like when dogs kind of
bite me
play
each
bite.
time. So the takeaway here is I'm innocent and you bite me all the time in a relationship for no reason. So there you go. That's one thing that we can improve in the relationship. That's how we deal with our hard times and our relationship tension now.
If you don't want bitten fingers, you don't put them in my mouth when I yawn.
What would you say to the audience of like, help, my girlfriend bites me all the time? Like, how do I solve that? Actually, you have bite marks all over your fucking back.
Now. So we're not talking about who's biting.
Maybe we won't show this on the video, but you are covered in bite marks, and that's very inappropriate. Anyway,
go out there and crush your goals.
If you want to. Bite me. You little shit. You missed.